Welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast, and I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, and joined as always when we're talking Penn State football recruiting, Happy Valley Insider's very own Dylan Callan-Crawley. Dylan, another exciting commitment for Penn State. They have now landed another from Florida in four-star defensive tackle Randy Adirika out of Miami Central High School. He chose Penn State in the end over offers from Auburn, Florida, Florida State, Kentucky, Maryland, Tennessee, Miami. The list goes on and on. I think he actually had 15 total offers. I believe they were all from Power Fives, actually. But he only took 3 official visits this summer to USC, Miami, and Penn State. And Penn State ended up winning that battle. What is Penn State? How did this actually happen? And what is Penn State getting in Adirika?
Yeah, so Adirika's recruitment's an interesting one. Despite being a Miami kid, this is a recruitment that Penn State's really been, at the forefront in for quite a while now. I go back to an article that I think Adam Gorney did in April, where he noted that Penn State was, a really big time contender for Adirika, and that he was actually thinking about potentially making a spring commitment at one point. He ultimately ended up taking a couple official visits, Penn State, Miami, USC, and Miami did make a late push here. We were talking as late as this past weekend, and even into Monday, that this was a recruitment that it felt like it could go either way, Penn State or Miami. We were wondering if Jarquez Carter was going to affect that, depending on where he would end up. But Randy Adirika, at the end of the day, decided that he wants to be a Nittany Lion. He's going to be the third Florida commitment in Penn State's 2025 recruiting cycle, second Miami Central prospect joining quarterback Beckham Kritza, who transferred to Miami Central this offseason, and is now Penn State's 12th four-star commitment in the 2025 recruiting class, and commitment number 22 overall. Number 132 nationally, number 25 in top 25 in the state of Florida. We have him listed. Yeah, we have him listed as defensive tackle. He's a top 10 defensive tackle. But this is a big win for Dion Barnes and the Nittany Lions as they continue to really rack up the commitments on the defensive line, which a couple weeks ago we were unsure if that was going to happen, but now they have Cortez Harris, they have Max Granville, Jalen Woods, and now Randy Adirika into that mix. That's a pretty damn good haul there for Dion Barnes.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So you mentioned Randy Adirika is now, what'd you say, 275, 265, something like that?
Yeah, he's pushing that 270, 280 mark at this point.
I know we have him listed 6'4", 265. It looks like he might be a little bit bigger than that since last offseason. It's looking at his huddle, it looks like he was listed at 6'4", 250. So this is a guy that's packed on a ton of weight over the past year.
Yeah, definitely a guy who you can tell is definitely still growing into his body and really just scratching the surface of what he can be physically. And I think we're going to see another jump once he, of course, arrives in Happy Valley. And, you look at his game. He, despite being a bigger guy, does have a good burst in his game, but he is very much of a power rusher as well. So there's a really intriguing combination in the middle of the defensive line there for Penn State. And, Penn State has really good group of defense tackles right now, but they don't have many guys who you feel, anytime they're out there has a chance to really get to the quarterback. They have a couple guys who can definitely do that. But Randy Adirika, I think, has the potential to be that, elite pass rusher in the middle of a defensive line that complements those guys on the outside well. Kind of similar to, definitely bigger, but kind of similar to a Zane Durant, who I think is probably, safe to say, Penn State's best defensive tackle. Definitely a guy who you feel like can get to the quarterback on a consistent basis. But Penn State hasn't had too many of those guys in recent memory. They've had very good defense tackles, just none that are elite pass rushers on top of being able to stop the run. But I think, Adirika has a chance to really be that inside presence when it comes to the pass rush in the future.
Yeah, the more I keep watching his tape in the background here, it's just he has such a great job of just shedding off that opposing offensive lineman. He gets really low. He's got good size, like I mentioned before, but his bend is really well, too, for a high schooler, and you don't really see that too often. But you mentioned, you don't really have an interior pass rusher with this kind of capabilities.
And he's facing, high level talent on a weekly basis down there at Miami Central. So I mean, it's not like he's up here in Central Pennsylvania going up against guys that are not even half his size. He's going up against some very legitimate competition on a weekly basis. I mean, some of the teams he faces this year: Northwestern, American Heritage, Booker T. Washington. I mean, those are three of the top programs in the entire state of Florida, and the rest of the schedule isn't bad by any means either. But he gets tested, so it really does make it a little bit more impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Looking back at his junior tape, 27 total tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, a forced fumble. Like you mentioned, Miami Central is a great team. And it's not just a great team on the field, but they've also produced a ton of talent over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even say the past couple of years, past like decades or so. And this is a program that it's great for Penn State to get into because now you're not only getting a quarterback from there, but you're getting a defensive tackle from there. I know they were obviously involved with some others, like including a wide receiver down there, but it sounds like he's not going to go to, or not. It was Nashawn Montgomery, right, from Miami Central?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're very big in the quote-unquote high school transfer portal, if you want to call it that.
For sure.
So it's definitely going to be a school that I think you'll see Penn State more involved with going forward, especially if Miami keeps struggling the way they are.
Yeah, I mean, Miami is one of those schools, it definitely has the allure. It definitely has the NIL aspect of it. But at the end of the day, in our lifetime, Miami hasn't been good since we were. Miami hasn't been consistently good or been the U in 20 years now. So
yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things. I do wonder how much longer Miami is going to be able. If Miami is just going to be able to recruit forever just on the allure of the U, that type of aspect. It definitely has that that to their advantage, but it's one of those programs that, despite always finishing top 20, 15, even higher in the recruiting rankings, never seems to get it done on the field.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are going to question his ranking, actually, overall, because I think we're the only one that has him a 4-star, and it's not just a 4-star, 132 in the country. And I know usually when people question that, it's because they're like, why are you guys higher than everyone else? But if you look at it, like, we've seen this kid multiple times. He's been at multiple Rivals camps, including one this year. He's been at multiple Under Armour camps, including one this year. Yep. We've seen him up close and personal. Our national analyst, John Garcia Jr., knows him probably better than anyone down in Miami. So, I mean, I'd like to argue that we have the better recruiting ranking here, but the kid's talented.
I definitely think he is a talented player and well-deserving of his, 4-star ranking here. I mean, at the end of the day, you can always argue about, is he a top 150 kid? Is he 150 to 250? Where does he end up? I think that's always up for debate, and you and I will always have different thoughts than other people on that. But at the end of the day, I think this is a 4-star talent. I think this is a kid who has a high ceiling at defensive tackle, has that ability to, be a potential elite pass rusher from the inside in the future. And we've seen what Penn State's been able to do with guys in similar builds and positions. And with what Deion Barnes has done in his short time on the field with Penn State as well, I think it's going to be really intriguing to see what Randy Adirika can do at the next level. Because if he can maintain some of that, burst, he's the type of guy that I think, if you want to get, a little bit more flashy, he's the type of guy who, even if he lines up inside now and then, you could possibly, even throw him on the outside here and there if you really wanted to, if he can continue to keep that burst. Because obviously, I'm not sure how accurate the 6'4" is, but even if he's 6'3", 6'4", he's probably going to be up to 300-some pounds by the time he sees, maybe 290s by the time he sees the field. So it's going to be interesting to see how much he can retain of that athleticism burst as he does continue to gain weight.
Yeah, I mean, sky's the limit here. We'll just have to wait and see how he develops over the next couple of years, or even his senior year too. So I expect a pretty big senior year out of the kid. Eager to see how he performs, but very big get for Penn State. Another high four-star, another top 150 kid. This solidifies them as a top 10 recruiting class once again.
Yep.
I wouldn't say overall because you never know how this thing ends up, but it definitely getting a top 130 prospect does not hurt.
Yeah, Penn State's definitely set themselves up here for, despite, having now 22 commitments, which is among the highest in the country, they're going to be set up well to, once again, end with a top 15, top 12, maybe even a top 10 recruiting class, depending on how they finish this day and that. Obviously, at time of recording, they may have picked up another commitment by now. They may not have, but there's definitely a couple other guys out there that we are watching closely that could be added to this class in the upcoming days as well, perhaps in the very near future even. So definitely has
Looking
a chance.
Looking at you, Taz Williams.
Well, yeah, exactly. Taz Williams on July 13th. That's coming up, so just a couple of days. And then, they still have a couple spots open in this class even after a potential Taz Williams commitment. So it'll be interesting to see how they finish out this class. Obviously have a couple of spots. We're looking at them potentially adding to, offensive line perhaps, and a Malachi Goodman. They'll continue to recruit a Michael Carroll as well, who's committed to Alabama.
For sure.
Could always potentially, continue to look at wide receiver depending on how things break there. And as same could be said on the defense of side of the ball, a couple spots. But at this point in the class, we're starting to get into territory where Penn State is kind of now in that +1 territory in which they'll continue to add guys that they feel confident about. Some spots they may necessarily not need another guy, but if they're good enough and want to be a Nittany line, I'm sure there's a couple guys out there they wouldn't turn down.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting. Like you said, they still would like to add to this class. It's already at 20 plus now. There's no limits anymore. No more 25 limit, so that's nice. Probably going to have to make some room next offseason for some of these guys, but that's just the way of the world, especially in college football, because nothing is solidified. It's a year-by-year basis with the portal, NIL, etc. But that's pretty much all I got. Anything else, Dylan, before we sign off? I think that's
I think that's it, and we'll see if there's any more fireworks here in the upcoming days.
Yeah, so stay tuned as always on the YouTube channel, at Penn State Football 1 on YouTube, at Penn State Rivals on every other social media platform. Hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't. It's free, it's easy, and you can get notified via email immediately after we upload a new pod, a new video, a new press conference, etc. Definitely going to want to have that set for this upcoming season because I have a feeling it's going to be a pretty exciting one. But yeah, for me and Dylan, that's another episode of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.